So I'm glad everybody attended this session for me today. I worked on it pretty hard and got it all prepared. I'm using a new Canva. I use new PowerPoint. So it looks like everything's going to be great today. I appreciate the person that did a lot of work to help me. I'm Dr. Hugh Beatty. Some of you probably know who I am. I practice what we call functional medicine. If you're not familiar with functional medicine, you will be today, because I'm going to explain a lot about what it does. Functional medicine is about helping the patient achieve wellness. You want to deal with their root causes of illness. I'm a board-certified anesthesiologist, pain management emphasis. Back in 28 years ago, when I first moved to Bakersfield from Los Angeles, I started doing primary care. And I felt when I was doing primary care, I really wasn't helping people much, but I didn't know the alternative. And I learned in 2013 what the alternative is. I have a book that's displayed up here that talks about that journey and what I do for patients. And it's a foundational, rudimentary book that will help you to understand more what I'm talking about. But today I'm going to talk about one of my patients. And her name is Carol Chilko and her journey. So Carol Chilko is here. That's her actual picture right now. She took that in my office about 2 months ago. And I'm going to talk about how Carol came to me and how she achieved the energy and the vibrance and how her magic was awakened. So this is Carol when she first came to me. I don't have her actual picture when she came into the office because most patients don't like the before picture. And one of my assistants here is Yareli. She's more and more trying to get patients to take a before picture because their after pictures are fabulous. But anyway, this is a picture. She was about 75, 76 then. And when she presented to me the first time, as you see, she was seeing multiple specialists here. She was on 9 different medications. Some of them were duplicated. And she had chronic pain. The pain involved both hips, her lower back, as well as her knees. And she was suffering a lot. At the time, she was also taking care of an ailing husband. Her husband passed about 2 years after I began taking care of her. Right when she achieved her wellness is when her husband passed. And she suffered from hormonal issues. She didn't know there were hormonal issues. Insomnia, hot flashes, and just a lot of fatigue. So her diagnosis, I mentioned briefly, she had degenerative hip disease. Both hips were severely degenerated. Nothing was working. She tried injections, physical therapy, nothing would help. She had significant lumbar degeneration. And because of that, she had extremity weakness. So when she first came to me, she was using a walker. And with the use of the walker, she was in this kind of position, and she had a very slow gait. And she thought she was going to be like that for the rest of her life. Her son had been my patient for about 10 years. I knew her son for at least 15, 20 years prior to that. And the reason why she heard of me, because I was doing at the time something called Kangen water. You guys may have heard of Kangen water. I'm not a big fan of it now, but it was alkaline water. And she was using that, and she felt better on the alkaline water. So she said, "Who is this doctor that you seeing?" And so her son told her about me. So when she came in, this is her state. She had hypertension, she was obese, she suffered with chronic pain, and she had other inflammatory illnesses that I don't mention here. So her treatment program, I first looked and said, okay, I want to do a comprehensive approach to her. So I knew at this point her joint disease was beyond what I could do in the office. Even though I had pain management, do a lot of procedures, even though I do PRP and stem cells. So I sent her to an orthopedic surgeon in town. And he replaced both hips. And that wasn't all. She needed rehab therapy. So she ended up at Encompass here in town. She was there about a week, and they did physical therapy while she was in the hospital. Then she was discharged, and she was receiving home physical therapy. In addition to that, I did what I could do for her. I did PRP, stem cells in her knees. After her recovery, I did some epidurals in her lower back. And she started having less pain and functioning much better. So then at that point, I said, let's take a look at what is causing your inflammation. So I began to address that, looking at her hormones, looking at her vitamins and minerals. And I knew she was very toxic of several different things, but one was heavy metals. So I began to look at that. So her wellness journey began August 31st, 2021. And the focus is on root causes. It was going to be a personalized approach, and the whole focus was going to be on restorative. Restore what? Restore back to what she wants to be. She wants to be healthy. And you can't achieve that by managing her illness, by medicating her. So it also includes some advanced therapies. I will discuss in more detail about these advanced therapies she received. One was IV ozone and also IV NAD. She also had different IV drips, glutathione, vitamin C, B complex. If you're not familiar with those things, I would recommend that you do, because they definitely will energize you. The question is, why did she need this approach? Because she had a lot of inflammatory illness. The conventional model was not working for her. It was treating her symptoms in isolation. Her complaints were just medicated away, and she was just declining. The root cause approach is going to be a different approach. Why is she struggling? Let's look at her hormones. Let's look at her vitamins and minerals. Let's look and see how toxic she is with heavy metals. And it was going to be a coordinated approach. When you have a patient that first comes to you that have inflammatory illness and medical problems, I do something called an integrated approach. I start looking at what I can do from a wellness perspective, and I add it on to what she's getting already from a medical perspective. And that approach is what I did with Carol. So something that you need to consider is that all illness, up to 98%, is inflammatory. And if you don't deal with the inflammation, you're going to keep the illness. And whether it's joint pain, because people say, well, I'm inflamed because I have joint pain. No, if you have diabetes, if you have high blood pressure, if you have struggle with sleep and stress, all that is inflammatory. If you have weight to lose, that's inflammatory. And those inflammatory issues can lead to other illnesses. So this is one of my favorite slides. It's the redox pathway. I remember when I was a chemistry major in college, I used to talk about redox, and I think I would ever, one, become a physician, let alone two, ever use redox, which is a physical chemical property in seeing patients. But all of us are undergoing redox right now. If you're not going from a state of reduction to oxidation, you're dead. If you're 100% oxidized, you're dead. And if you're hearing this for the first time, it's unbelievable, because this is the only way you can treat people's root cause. You have to restore that balance. And the key point is the step between oxidation and inflammation. As you see here, when somebody becomes inflamed, that's going down this pathway instead of going back here. I equate it to like a battery in a car. Whether you drive a Tesla or you drive a traditional car, you need electricity to power that car. And so what you need to do is go in this cycle. You go from a state of reduction that gives off the energy, that becomes oxidized, then you have to recharge the system and go back to a state of reduction. Redox is what we say, but think of it as antioxidation. This is what you need to do. So on a daily basis, you need to think about, I need to reverse this oxidizing process and become in more of an antioxidant state. If you don't, you get this slippery slope, and it starts with inflammation. And that inflammation can then go on to illness, and that illness goes on to death. That is a slippery slope to death. So one day I was presenting, and I looked here and I said, the traditional doctors keep their patients one step from death. They keep you here ill. They manage your illness. And as a functional medicine doctor, I'm trying to keep you up here energized, feeling well, and several steps from death. And when you see Carol and her story, that's what happened to her. She was at the precipice of death at all times. So what is important is the powerhouse of the cell, which is the mitochondria. The mitochondria needs certain things in order for you to stay in a state of health. It needs hormones, not just thyroid hormones, but it needs sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. So every person needs to have their hormones evaluated if they're struggling with fatigue. One hormone that causes a lot of fatigue is stress, cortisol. And this nation is full of stress, especially when things are happening in your life, loss of job, divorce, death, all these other things. It's very stressful. which can sap you of energy. The next one is minerals and vitamins. For years, I heard patients say they never were told to take vitamins by their doctor. If they do, they say, take a multivitamin. If you take vitamins, you're gonna just urinate it out. All vitamins are not water soluble. Some of them are fat soluble, like vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K. So that's not true. And then oxygen. When I was an anesthesiologist, I always understood the importance of oxygen. One of the critical things I had to do when I would put a patient to sleep is make sure I get that breathing tube in the right place. Because patients have about 5 minutes of lack of oxygen before they can be at risk of brain death. And so there's a lot of different techniques I had to get the tube in the right place. 95% of the time successful, not difficult. But when it is, you better have some other things to keep that patient getting oxygen. So oxygen is critical for health, and then toxin removal. Toxins are heavy metals. People don't realize that they have heavy metals that stay in your tissue. And so if you were to come into contact with mercury, let's say if you had a thermometer that broke and you had some mercury, well, that mercury behind your blood the first few days, and behind the urine first few days, it takes a while for it to come out of the blood and the urine. But it's kind of like marijuana. If you hadn't had marijuana for a week or two, it won't show up in your urine and blood, but it will show up in your tissue. It'll show up in hair samples. So you have to look at the tissue, because heavy metals will poison the mitochondria, the energen. It's like putting sugar in your gas tank if you have a gasoline-powered vehicle. So we need a new healthcare model. We need to think about prevention. And it's interesting that there's so many social media influencers that get into the healthcare space that promote so many different things that patients should do and people should do to get healthier. But they're not doing what needs to be done first, testing. What's causing the inflammation? Because I get asked all the time, should I do this, doc? Should I do that? Family members, friends, people I've never evaluated. And I tell them, well, I don't know. I mean, in general, it can be useful if you need it. So it's a prevention model. I would rather prevent becoming ill than to try to reverse that illness. I posted on Facebook not too long ago, I said the best time to focus on staying well is when you're well. But that's not when we do it. When I was at my booth, I have the IV therapy booth called the Wellness Water. And when I was there, 3 young ladies came up. I thought they were in their early 20s because they seemed pretty mature. And I said to them, I said, how are you guys in your 20s? They said, no, we're teenagers, 17, 18. I said, well, you're in your peak of health. And they looked like it too. I said, you need to come and listen to me, because I'm going to show you in a little bit what happens when you start hitting those 30s. So integrative wellness is what I practice. And once you become well, it's no longer integrative. It's all functional medicine from there. So hormones, the body masters messengers. Think about that. A show of hands, how many of you in here have had your hormones evaluated? So about half. How many had your hormones evaluated only by blood? Any other type of evaluation of your hormones, sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone? Yes. Okay, a few of you went all the way. Okay. So those sex hormones are critical, but they vary when they begin to become deficient. Stress can drop your progesterone like crazy. And I'm going to show you that curve in a minute. But these are the things to think about. Thyroid function. So many women have come to me who are already hypothyroid in their late 20s. The biggest cause of hypothyroidism in most women is deficiency. They're deficient in iron. They're deficient in iodine and selenium and magnesium. The doctors don't think about how we correct that first. They look for thyroid antibodies, which is a sign of gut issues. And they say, oh, you got Hashimoto's, there's nothing we can do. I reverse Hashimoto's in my office. I've got thyroid antibodies down from a functional medicine approach. Adrenal hormones and cortisol patterns are critical. Insulin. Insulin is a peptide. All the rage you hear about peptides, insulin peptide. You got to be careful with that peptide. So you need to really know what you're doing when you talk about peptides. Now, I want to stay here for a minute because cholesterol gets such a bad name. And cholesterol is my hero. Look at cholesterol. It's at the top of the heap. And I put it in red so you can focus on that. Look what happens. It makes your progesterone. It makes your estrogen. Okay? It also makes your stress hormone cortisol, as well as cortisone. So when I have a young person come to my office, male or female, and they say, Dr. Beatty, I want to get a physical and get some blood work checked, and I'll go ahead and look at their cholesterol, and I'll look at their cortisol. And when I see this cortisol is high, then I assume that that's going to be high already. Because look, you cannot make cortisol without cholesterol. So they don't need to have that cholesterol lowered with medication. They need to correct this, find out what's causing that stress. In addition, when you look over here, cholesterol also makes your testosterone. Testosterone makes estrogen. Estrogen is very critical for women for a lot of reasons. I'm going to talk about that as we go on. But I just wanted you to see this. Cholesterol makes vitamin D3. So when you're in the sun and you got exposure, your skin got exposure to the sun, it will convert the cholesterol to vitamin D3. Vitamin D3 is not a vitamin, it's a pro-hormone. Cholesterol is the father of all hormones. It's also an anti-inflammatory. The mitochondria cannot work without cholesterol. In addition to that, cholesterol makes bile salts. So when you have your gallbladder removed and you have trouble digesting fat, you need bile salts. And cholesterol makes bile salts. You can't digest the fat. You have sticky, smelly stool without bile salts. Cholesterol is in the cell membrane. 100% of myelin is made of cholesterol. And myelin makes up 75% of the brain. So when you artificially lower cholesterol, it's not unusual to get cognitive decline. Here's something here that's a little scary. When people start thinking about hormones, they think about getting cancer. And this hormone, I promise you, it will rise when you become postmenopausal. It will rise when you pick up weight and become obese. This is estrone. There's actually 3 different types of estrogens. It's not just estradiol. There's estriol, which I didn't show on the slide. Estriol comes from estrone. There's estradiol and there's estrone. And those 3, 2 of them you make when you're young and healthy, in your 20s, part of your 30s. It starts dropping in your 40s. So this one is what people need to be concerned about. But this one is protected by progesterone. That's why I say hormone balance. You want to go from that side to this side. Make sure you're balanced. That's why you got to do proper testing. I'll speak more about that as we go on, but I just wanted to make sure you understand where all these hormones come from. So perimenopausal and menopausal symptoms. I see this a lot. Patients come to me and they say, doc, and I'm having hot flashes. I have no energy. I'm gaining weight. Sex drive is gone. I think I'm having trouble in my marriage because I feel like I'm going crazy. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, good. Well, you're going to have a chance for questions and answers for sure. And I've seen this a lot, and Yeli knows that. She's in my office. And sometimes the patient is so anxious to feel better, I tell them there's no emergency wellness. It's a process. It took years to get there. It's going to take me some time to get you better. In fact, I got to tell the story real quick. There was a patient, he told me, I hear this a lot. Sometimes patients want to go back and do violence to the other doctors. And I say, don't do that. But it was a man I was seeing for about a year now. And he was having a lot of problems with his breathing. He was really worried because he's in his early 60s. He thought he was going to have to be on oxygen. He was winded. He was using inhalers all the time. He'd been seeing a pulmonologist for 20 years. And I told him, I said, well, you ever had a CT scan of your sinus? He said, no. So we got the CT of the sinuses, terrible sinus blockage. I sent him for nasal balloon procedure and opened up his sinuses. He no longer had the post-nasal drip. And he pretty much don't need his inhaler. He said, doc, I can't believe how good I feel. I said, no one ever asked you what is causing your problems. They just don't. They treat the symptoms. So when you have these symptoms, that's not the time to get on an antidepressant. This is not, you don't come to me and I'll give you trazodone because you can't sleep. I don't give you other SSRIs to try to deal with your hot flashes. Hair thinning and loss of hair, I don't tell women to go get a wig or extensions. Because I don't. Thinking and memory issues, what are you going to tell them? And I remember years ago, before I learned functional medicine, I had a woman that came to me, and she had been my patient for a couple of years. She was in her early to mid 40s, and she started really having forgetfulness. I did everything I possibly could. I sent her to the neurologist. The neurologist worked her up, and he said she just got, we don't call it that anymore, but pre-senile dementia, just early dementia. And a few years later, I heard about she was in a memory center in her late 40s. And it's sad. I didn't know this then. This was probably about 2008, 2009. I learned 2013. But the other doctors didn't either. She went to the neurologist. She went to the proper people. So dry skin, acne, all this can be hormone related. Perimenopausal symptoms aren't as severe a lot of times as menopausal symptoms. Now, the definition of postmenopause, I do not have up there, but postmenopause can start at any age. Now, let me clarify that. I want you to really understand this point, because women have come to me already in postmenopause because they had their uterus removed in their 30s, in their 20s. And the doctor told them, no, you're not in menopause yet, or postmenopause. No, there's something called surgical postmenopause. If you're not having periods anymore, you are postmenopause, period. And so those people need to be treated. It was a patient that I saw once, probably about 10 years ago. Very unfortunate situation. She was 21, maybe at the time when she first came to me. She was post-surgical menopause. What happened to her was that she was only seeing the GYN, her GYN physician. She was having abdominal pain. So she ended up having one of her ovaries removed. She went to the surgeon, had her appendix removed. All this trying to treat her abdominal pain, not finding the cause of the pain. She then eventually continued to have the pain, ended up with a hysterectomy and her other ovary removed. Still had the abdominal pain. When she came to me, I knew immediately that she had myofascial pain. I touched her belly, she had trigger points. I injected her trigger points, her pain went away and never came back. I then had to treat her hormone imbalance. And she kept saying, why, Dr. Beatty, why don't they know this? I said, you have to go and learn this. This is not taught in medical school. So wherever you are, whether it's early perimenopause, late perimenopause, or menopause, that's the transition. This is transition phase. This is not the peak fertility years. This is the transition phase. So when you're transitioning, find help. Get someone to help you. When you can't breathe, you call for help. Call for help and find someone who can help you. So let's look at the late perimenopause. Look at the symptoms there. Ages 45 to 50, estrogen and progesterone decline more noticeably. Hot flashes, night sweats, weight distribution, cognitive decline. But it shows much better in this graph here. One day I was in my office and I was talking to a patient and I was trying to explain to her what was going on. She says, Doc, do I need estrogen? I said, I don't think so. You're only 32, 33 years old. You're still cycling. I think you're estrogen dominant. But the other doctor she had seen wanted to put her on birth control. And all she knew was hormones was estrogen related. So I want you guys all take out your phones and take a picture of that, because you're not going to find this in the textbook. I came up this as I was talking with her. So look at your reproductive years here before age 35. There's a reason why we call this time frame here high-risk pregnancy. 5 years ago, we used to call it geriatric pregnancy. I don't think women like being told they're geriatric. So we don't call it that anymore. All right, you've got to be politically correct. But look here, your estrogen and your progesterone is balanced. This P ratio is critical. I measure it all the time. You need to have 50 to 1 to 100 to 1 progesterone to estrogen. And if you don't, you're going to have those perimenopausal symptoms or menopausal symptoms, depending on what age you are. But I want you to look here for a second. Look what happens at 30. This is what I want those young ladies who are 17, 18, living their best life to know. Look, at 30, it starts to dip. And when I share how important progesterone is, you're going to understand. I'm talking about bioidentical hormones, naturally compounded hormones, hormones your body used to make, not synthetic, not birth control type stuff, not Proverin, Lupron, Magase, or whatever you want to call it, medroxyprogesterone. many pills. No, we're talking about this is natural, what your body made, and it starts falling off at 30. And it can happen even sooner if you're stressed out. Because where does progesterone come? Where does cortisol come from stress? From progesterone. So it picks up. So by the time you're 40, it's never shocking to me when a patient comes in, Dr. Beatty, the last 5 years, I'm 40 now, I gained so much weight, my hair is falling out, I can't sleep, I think I'm going crazy. And I've had a lot of stories of people tell me what they've done in their state of craziness. It's funny sometimes. I don't laugh at them. If you look here, 45 is when estradiol starts to dip. So if you're getting, in general, estrogen back here, then you're going to have even a worse estrogen dominant state. You're going to have heavier periods, more bleeding. Fibroid's going to get bigger. Now, I want to break out, point something out to you. So when you, from here to about 40, there's a severe estrogen dominant state. And that estrogen dominant state is when most women are ended up having these heavy bleedings and periods. They go to GYN and he wants to do ablation. If you remember in my bio, I told you I was an anesthesiologist. I remember when I first started doing anesthesia back in the early 90s, I used to love to work in the operating room on GYN day. I'm sorry to tell you guys this, because the women were healthy and young, but they were bleeding. So the doctors in there taking those uteruses out like crazy. And it was an easy day for me because they were healthy people. I'll do 5 or 6 of those cases in one day. And I was saying, why do women get their uteruses out in their early to mid 30s? I understand now. Okay, this is what's going on. Estrogen causes the uterus to grow fibroids and ovarian cysts in the ovaries. So keep this in mind. So when I have a patient that is suffering perimenopausally and it's a progesterone, I bring that progesterone level right back up to where it should be and let it march right on through. I keep them march right on through because they don't need any estrogen treatment until the estrogen start falling off. How do you know the estrogen's falling off? In the mid to late 40s, they start saying, I don't think as clearly. My vision is not as good. I don't have the same energy as I had. I'm starting to have hot flashes. Then I will test them and bring the estrogen to bring that level back up. Now, you guys are going to really love men after I tell you this. See this right here? That line is testosterone. See, testosterone? Men march right on through. Okay? But I have some women who do too. They're in the postmenopausal time, and I look at their testosterone, and they're fine. They don't need testosterone. So you have to know what's going on so you can treat properly. Now, one thing you should ask your doctor to do, if you're only doing blood, look at this curve right here. See this curve? That's FSH. And that FSH rises when the estrogen drops. So when my patients come to me and say, hey doc, I think I need more estrogen, I take a look at that. The goal is to get that under 25. Postmenopausal women, their estrogen level can be generally sometimes, the FSH can be as high as 100, 120. So I can look there, but then I can do further testing too. This is a lot going on there. By the time you're 50, look where your hormones are. This is the increased risk of cancer, heart disease, dementia. Just think about, I have women come to me and say, hey, my mom is really doing poorly, Dr. Beatty. She's in the memory center, or she's having heart disease, or this and that. I get those questions all the time. What should they do? And in my mind, I'm saying, well, it's not too late. Maybe we can try something. I believe that you should always give patients hope, because God is the ultimate decider of whether someone does well or not. In fact, she might, well, I don't want to say, but I ran to one of my patients in the hallway. She said, oh, Dr. Beatty, so good to see you. And she had such a terrible just period of time with her health. And she's in perfect health. She doesn't look inflamed. She's in her early to mid 50s, and she's just so excited. She gave it all the glory to God. I said, yes, that's where it should be. But she looks great, all because she learned and understands this stuff. So I'm gonna move on, but that's a great slide that you really should, hope you guys took pictures of it. So it's important to test. So when Carol first came to me, I said, I gotta do some testing. And I have these women that come to me and say, Dr. Beatty, you get people off meds. I'm gonna stop all my meds today. I said, no, I'm not that doctor. Those meds need to stabilize you. Let's do our testing first. Let's see where you are. And one test I love, I'm gonna show you in a minute, is the Tanita scale. That's looking at your fat to muscle ratio. That's gonna give you an idea of your metabolic age or physiologic age. And I love when these people come to see me and I put them on that Tanita test and they say, Doc, I don't think I need any help from you. I put them on there, they're 40 and it says they're 55 physiologically. And they're like, what? I said, look at your fat to muscle ratio. Your bones are thinning. You have sarcopenia, you're losing muscle. Well, what can I do? I said, you came to the right place. I'm ready to help you. Intracellular scan. That's how I can determine what minerals and vitamins they need, the heavy metals that they have in their system, in the tissue. I can look at their overall physiology, and I can then look and see how inflamed they are. And these tests can be done in a matter of minutes in the office, a quick little screen. The blood, urine, and saliva testing, a deep dive in the hormones. So, here's an example of a patient. This is a 28-day saliva test. Some of you may have heard of it, some of you may not have, but this is critical. This particular patient right here, this is her estradiol level, this is the progesterone level. Here's her testosterone. What do you think is going on with that patient? She had all kinds of symptoms. Does she need hormone therapy? Does she need a therapist? I mean, well, in her because she was stressed out. She didn't ovulate. This is the estrogen rise when women ovulate around day 14. So you young women who are trying to do the rhythm method and be careful not to get pregnant, you remember that you ovulate around day 14. There's a window about 2 or 3 days where you increase your risk of pregnancy. Look at her progesterone level. She was a young woman in her 30s, like 32. Progesterone was shot. She was in a bad marriage. You know, she had just lost her job. She was just stressed out. So she did go to a counselor, but I worked on this too for her. Look at this one right here. Different pattern. You can't guess. Here, these dots represents her estradiol level. They were so low, they were off the chart. I've had women come to me, total estrogen supposed to be at their peak anywhere from 500 to 1100 in their cycle. They've come to me, their estrogen level's 30. Look at her progesterone, low. Testosterone's low. She was 46. She was getting close to postmenopause, under a lot of stress, and that also caused that too. What about this one right here? No ovulation, high progesterone. What could that be? She was pregnant. This lady came to me for 3 years, was married, trying to get pregnant with her husband, doing everything the doctor had told him to do. I said, relax. Kids in high school get pregnant so easy, they're not trying to. Okay? You're up here making it like it's war, telling her husband, don't masturbate, let's don't have sex for 3 days, take your vitamins, okay? I'm not ovulating yet. I said, just enjoy it. So I put her on vitamins and minerals. I said, when you have your period, on day 3, do the testing. So she did the testing, but she had to wait about 3 weeks to a month before she thought she was having a period. She was actually spotting early on in her pregnancy. She had conceived already. So when she came to me about a month later to review this, she said, Dr. B, I got good news. I said, I know, you're pregnant. She said, how do you know? I said, I can look at the slide. When you're pregnant, progesterone just takes off and goes to the moon. And progesterone is the pro-pregnancy hormone. When women don't have enough progesterone, when they're pregnant, they can have miscarriage the first 12 weeks, the corpus luteum not making enough progesterone, or they have terrible morning sickness, and they just need progesterone. The American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology now is caught up with that, and they're recommending that women be on progesterone if they had 1 or 2 miscarriages. Why wait? Give them the progesterone. Progesterone is critical for the pregnancy. It's critical for the 3rd trimester for the baby's brain development. They should never stop taking progesterone. Over here, what's going on with this patient? She's 24. Come to me, miserable. I remember the day she came to see me. Had to keep track of time. But anyway, the day she came to see me, and when she came in with her dad. She was writhing in pain. And he said, Doc, I know you do a lot of pain management, and I started IVs, So I said, okay. I said, I'll help her with that, but why is she in so much pain was my question. Well, doc, they told me I have ovarian cysts. I get hospitalized once a year for this degree of pain. I don't want to go to the hospital. I said, okay, well, let me just kind of think this through, take some history. I told her at the time, I said, you're estrogen dominant for sure, but I don't think you have ovarian cysts. Because he even told me, said when they do the ultrasounds, the ovaries are always normal. I said, you have endometriosis. And sure enough, I sent her to a GYN. He did the laparoscopy, and she had endometriosis. But he couldn't leave well enough alone. He put Lupron, instilled it in her abdomen when he pulled out the scope. Lupron synthetic progesterone. She went and gained 40 pounds, and she was miserable. 24, okay? So look at, uh-oh, I got ahead of myself. Look at her estrogen off the scale, progesterone down there, testosterone in the normal range. So she was told because her estrogen dominance was so bad that she would never be able to have children. I corrected that. She has 2 children today. So here's the Tanita scale I was talking about. This is me. So I feel safe to talk about me. I was 56 at the time, and it said my metabolic age was 41. So the best you can be is 15 years younger. I'm 67 now, and it says that my metabolic age is 52. Okay. So, but I work hard at I'm gonna show you the 5 pillars I do that I talk about in my book, and each of those pillars I tried my best to do. So this is what I will do with the patient. I look at their fat percent, and their fat to muscle ratio. I don't know if you can really see it on here because it's kind of small to see, but it's on this slide. The other thing I quickly do with the patient, here's the intracellular scan. This is my report, and look at my mercury. I didn't know my mercury was that high. Also my aluminum, so I don't use aluminum deodorant anymore. Silver was up there, cadmium, lead was not too, well, lead is right there, not too bad, thallium. Okay, and look, I had 100% blockage of clearing heavy metals. And that can increase your chance of decline, cognitive decline. It can cause heart failure. It can lead to kidney failure. Guys, take a chance and look at what heavy metals can do to your body. So this is my beginning, my baseline. Mine don't look like that now, okay? I had a lot of oxidative stress. Well, being a physician, a lot of oxidative stress. Here's my oxidative protection. Here's the physiology profile. Look at my hormonal state at the time. And metabolism, basal metabolic rate. At rest was very low. I needed vitamins and minerals and hormones. My gut health wasn't the best. Cardiovascular wasn't too good. I did go see my cardiologist, Dr. Sandhu, the best in town. And he checked me out. So a quick, I'm gonna tell you about testosterone because I didn't spend much time talking about testosterone yet. Testosterone is off-label for women. It's not FDA approved for women. Okay, off-label means that we can use it because it's been FDA approved for another reason. It's only been approved in men who have low T. They have to have what they call hypogonadism. Testosterone levels in the blood less than 300. I think you need to check more than the blood in men, saliva and urine too. But that's what it is on 2 different occasions. So it's safe to use in men, and you're also safe to use in women. This is just talking about the route of administration. You shouldn't do pellets in women. I know women love testosterone pellets. If you're gonna do the pellets, make sure you do the cream first. Get the dosing right. 1/10 of men. Women ask me all the time, Doc, is this testosterone gonna affect my husband? I said, no, it won't touch him at all. But his testosterone cream will affect you. And then the body wants to heal itself. If you want to be well, you got to have a healthy cell. With the healthy cell, everything I'm talking about is energizing you. And once you energize, everybody knows. I'm a part of EAKC. I joined about 7, 8 months ago, and it was a little bit embarrassing. I walked in there, one of my friends knew me, Michael Roberts, and he said, Doc, he was the president at the time, Doc, stand up. I stood up. He said, how old do you think he is? And I'm like, man, come on. And I said, I'm 67. And the thing is, you can reverse that age of how you look with the 5 pillars approach, and that's what I do. I look at the hormonal health, get it balanced. I look at your gut health. A lot of times when you fix the hormones, the patients start noticing they have gut issues. Inflammation tends to start in the gut. Hippocrates said over 2,000 years ago that all inflammation starts in the gut. And then, so these are the 2 biggest things I'm constantly dealing with in my office. Nutrition is a battle, but it's their battle. It's so hard to get people to eat healthy when they're not used to eating healthy, especially when I like certain types of Mexican food and stuff like that. I'm looking at my staff. Resistance training, critical. As you get older, you waste muscle. Sleep. Sleep is critical. When you lack sleep, all your hormones go off. In fact, I tell patients all the time that if you do shift work, if you work between the hours of midnight to 8 in the morning, when the birds are sleeping, then it's going to be hard to balance your hormones. It's going to be hard to help you to heal. Now, water's at the bottom because water is critical. 70% of our body is water. And then love. If you love yourself, you won't fail yourself. It says love never fails. God is love. Okay? And the thing is, you put God in your life, you will awaken your magic. So I believe that magic is the Holy Spirit. Now, peptides. I got to say this real quickly because I get asked all the time, Doc, do you know anything about peptides? Doc, can I come to you for peptide? And I said, I know about peptides. Peptides are very effective, but they haven't been shown to be safe and effective by the FDA. So in order to use them off-label for things, they have to be shown to be safe and effective. Our governor, Newsom, says no. We can't do injectable peptides. So all the people you guys hear about that are doing injectable peptides are getting them online. They're not physicians themselves. And a person can do whatever they want with their own body. But I can't prescribe it to them when it says that it's experimental, when it says that it's not for human consumption. I can't inject people with that stuff. There's other states that allow you to, Texas, Idaho, Nevada, Florida. But I'm hoping that in July, when the FDA meets to discuss the peptide issue, that they will release at least 12 to 14 of these peptides. One thing I want to point out right here is NAD. NAD is not a peptide. It gets thrown in with peptides. Actually, it's a coenzyme, vitamin B3. It's very critical to help you make energy. All these peptides are involved with cell signaling. Insulin's a peptide, but don't use insulin if you don't need it. So here's the semaglutide, the retatrutide, and there's one other up here, I think, that's a GLP-1 that you guys don't know about. Well, retatrutide is like GLP-3. There's three different peptides. Why do you think they need to have 3 different peptides? Your body builds up tolerance to these things. And when it builds up, that's why I have patients, when they come to me and they want to be on peptides for weight loss, GLP, I say to them, look, I'm going to put you on a protein. You got to at least eat 1 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of weight. And you're also going to have to lift weights. And our patients actually gain muscle and lose fat with that. If they don't do it, I stop the GLP-1. And then here's progesterone. So if you want to protect yourself against breast cancer, you need progesterone. Uterine cancer, progesterone, ovarian cancer. If you're having problems with mood swings, stress, anxiety, you need progesterone. If you can't sleep, insomnia, you need progesterone. Hot flashes, want to lower your risk of heart attacks, progesterone. What about arthritis is progesterone, the thymus for the immune system. It's a natural antidepressant, improves memory. It just does so many things. And I see these women, they're on estrogen and no progesterone, creating an estrogen dominant state. It's crazy to me. And sometimes my face show it when they tell me, and I need to learn not to do that. But I do because I feel bad for them because I'm going to tell them what they need to know, and it's up to them to decide to do it. So the 5 Pillars of Health is the book I wrote because I want you to understand there's a lot of different sources and causes of inflammation. If you are in a state of chronic inflammation, you will not have energy. And when you do not have energy, you can't live your best life in every way that you want to be. The reason why I want to speak here today is because I know this message is not very popular and very well known. The 2 biggest things I see in my practice when patients come to see me is that they're fatigued and they're in pain. And a lot of times their pain causes fatigue. And the typical physician has no answer for the pain or the fatigue. And that's right in my playhouse. I deal with that all the time. So Carol's success story was based on what I did for her. And she was willing to do everything. As she got better, she wanted to do it more. She's now on a program, a program that I continually We'll monitor her, and she continues to do the things I recommend, and she's just fabulous. You're going to see in a second. Well, Carol, thanks for joining me today.
Okay.
You look lovely as always.
Well, thank you.
So let's start there.
Yeah.
How do you feel nowadays?
I feel wonderful. I have a new lease on life.
So a typical day for you, what does that involve?
Well, I work out 3 times a week. I get my hair done one day. I just do, I'm retired, so I'm home,
Do you have any limitations now
No,
in your health or physically?
no, I can do everything. When I go for my workout, I do everything she wants me to do.
How's your energy level nowadays?
I feel great. I get up at 6 o'clock. And I used to be years ago. I was always tired in the morning, and now I'm ready to go at 6 o'clock.
So isn't it amazing? Because you told me once that you feel better now than you did 10 years ago.
Oh yes, yeah.
So when you look back, was it a difficult process to get here, or how was that for you?
It wasn't difficult. It was just coming here, getting my hormones, and getting healthy, eating better. I'm really careful about what I eat.
So how many doctors do you have now?
I don't have any doctors but you.
How many medications do you take now?
I just take hormones. I don't take any medication.
Do you wish there are things you can do that you can't do anymore? Or can you do all the things you would like to do?
I can do, there's nothing I can think of that I'm missing in my life.
So one last question.
Okay.
Are you glad you started this journey?
Yes, I am.
I'm glad you did too.
You're the best.
Thank you very much, Carol. Thanks for volunteering for this interview.
Yeah.
Thanks for your story.
Okay.
And I'm quite sure it's going to reach a whole bunch of these women here today.
Oh, good. That's great.
Thanks, Carol.
Okay.
So that's that's why I love functional medicine. And when she comes in, I brag on her all the time. She's not the only success story, but she was one who really wanted to be as healthy as she possibly could. But I also have other patients that I want to share today. Some of these people you might know. This is her at the beginning, and this is her now. I call her the Zumba queen. I think she's almost 60 now. And she's done very well. No medications, just doing the program. Here's another person. This is Shannon. All these people gave me consent to show their pictures, okay? So they were glad to. They're not happy to show the before they get well. But once they get well, they love this look, okay? She's doing very well. Also, no medications, just doing the functional medicine approach. And she's the same thing. These people were tired, fatigued, multiple problems, multiple issues. It took a while. In fact, when she first came to me, she said, "Doc, why is it taking so long for you to begin to do anything on me?" I said, "I'm gathering information." And then here's the last one. Just fabulous, fabulous results with these people. Lovely. Their mood is so great. They sleep, they have energy, they're doing things they haven't been able to do in years. So here's my book. I ask everybody this question. Do you want to be well? And if you want to be well, there are resources out there. One is this book. If you scan that QR code, it will go right to Amazon. I have books here for purchase if you want them. I also will be at the author corner with my books. And it's the 5 Pillars of Health, Do You Want to Be Well? And it took me 7 years to write it because I didn't have enough time to always focus on it. I am working on the process of another book right now. So this QR code will give you direct to my website. So at this point, if there's any questions, you can ask me any questions about functional medicine you like. I'll be more than glad to answer them. Yes, Terry.
Are you taking new patients, and where are you located?
Yes, I'm taking new patients who want to be well.
They want to be well?
Yeah.
Where are you located?
If they want to stay sick, there's a lot of doctors that are out there to keep them there. But if they want to be well.
Where are you located?
I'm located 6001 Truxton Avenue, Building B, Suite 240.
Do you have a social media we can follow?
Yes, the social media, Instagram is docking back.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
How does this work with breast cancer?
I have patients who are breast cancer survivors, and they do really well. In fact, I'm thankful that the black box warning has been removed from bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. I think it's still on synthetic hormones. There was that Women's Health Initiative back in 2002 that really messed up a whole lot of teaching on it. I still have my patients who are being told by other physicians, you need to get off those hormones, it can lead to cancer. Hormones need to be balanced. Why aren't women getting cancer when they have balanced hormones in their 20s? It starts showing up in their 40s and 50s because they're not balanced. Estrogen is too high. And a lot of times the doctors cause estrogen dominance by giving them estrogen only without progesterone. Because their thought is that progesterone increases breast cancer. Yes, it does if it's synthetic. But bioidentical, natural, compounded progesterone doesn't. It's the opposite. It has something called P53 that it boosts. And that P53 blocks the effects of cancer. That's why progesterone can resolve cancer. So it just depends. So yeah, I do have women who have breast cancer survivors that are on hormone therapy, and they're doing fabulous. Because before I put them on it, they were miserable. All the symptoms, can't sleep, gaining weight, can't think, they were miserable. Yes, there was a hand back there. Yes. Go.
What's the difference between just being on the estrogen patch and then being on something that's compounded?
Estrogen patch. Well, the estrogen patch could be bioidentical, like estradiol. And so that's nothing wrong with that. But you should have it balanced with progesterone.
What do you recommend?
Estradiol, it just depends. I use a lot of creams in my office. I don't give any women oral estrogen because oral estrogen increases your risk of embolism, DVTs, pulmonary embolism, and stuff like that. So I don't give any oral estrogen. I give out a lot of oral progesterone because it helps them sleep at night. But estradiol, it depends on what you respond better to. The thing is, though, I want to finish this point real quick. The thing is, I test, but nothing trumps the clinical picture. If I have tests that looks normal, the patient is miserable, I keep looking to find out what's wrong. So your symptoms will trump any test I have.
Do you compound your own in office?
No, I send patients to Henas. I've been sending them to Henas for years. I get great results with them. I trust them. They're very careful. They're monitored also by some pharmacy board. So, yeah, there was a hand back there. Then I'll come to you. Yes. I work with anybody who has a pulse. And because the insurance doesn't cover this, so it doesn't matter if they come from Kaiser, they have Medicare, Medicate, it doesn't matter. Because the insurance can help with some testing, like the blood work, but it doesn't cover the consultations, it doesn't cover all these special tests and things I'm doing. And so it really is out of pocket. And that's why I tell people, you got to put a value on your health. I'm thankful I have my health. I just heard of someone I know, you guys heard of this famous baseball player, Garrett Anderson. He just died at 53. Just sad, just heart attack and died. I know who he is. He never came to me because I knew him from a kind of a distance, a family friend.
Thank you.
Yes. There was a question here in the front.
Oh, it was it.
Okay, good. All right, well, I'm gonna give you something to think about. What I want you to think about is when you are on that slippery slope that's leading to illness and death, there is something you can do, and it's called dealing with the root cause and find a doctor who practices functional medicine, because that's the only way you have an opportunity to be well. God has two ways of healing all of us. He can do it miraculously, or he can do it naturally. In order to do it naturally, we have to give the body what it needs to heal. If you want to be well, you have to have a healthy cell, and those healthy cells will energize you. Thank you very much.